Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. I am so excited to share with you guys these healthy dessert recipes because they're like chocolate bars, candy bars, what do you want to call them. We're making Twix, Snickers, and Reese's classics. So good. They're all paleo, gluten-free, dairy-free, vegan, plant-based, refined sugar-free, all of that jazz, but they taste incredible. And they're really here to show you that you can have treats like this and they're made with good for you ingredients. So let's go ahead and dive in. So the first thing we're making are these Twix bars. I think this is my favorite recipe. I used to love Twix and now I make this gluten-free version and it is so good. So for the base, I'm starting off with some almond flour. It's really rich in protein, fiber, vitamin E, healthy fats. Adding in some coconut oil, a little bit of maple syrup, and vanilla for flavor, and I'm stirring that around. And so this is what's gonna make that cookie bar of our Twix. I'm gonna go ahead and add that to a loaf pan that is lined with parchment paper, and we're gonna bake this cookie off so that it gets nice and hard so that when we bite into our Twix, it's like a cookie and it's not raw dough. So just pushing that down until it's in a nice even layer, and then we're gonna pop that in the oven at 350 for 12 minutes. While that's cooking, we can go ahead and make our caramel. I'm using some nut butter, coconut oil, vanilla, and maple syrup. You can use whatever kind of nut butter you want. If you use something like a peanut butter, it will taste a lot more peanutty versus something more mild like a cashew butter or almond butter. Either way, it makes this delicious caramel that we're going to add on the top of our baked shortbread cookie. And what I like about this is that it's full of nourishing, healthy fats, but it has a little bit of sweetness, so it totally satisfies that sweet tooth without you needing a lot of it. So I placed that in the freezer for about an hour, and then I am going to slice the bars. Now I like to make mini versions of these, so I slice it first lengthways and then make mini bars, almost like if you were to go trick-or-treating and get those little Twixes, that is the size that I am making. You can, of course, make long cookie forms, but I find because they are sweet and decadent, you actually get really satisfied with one. So these are the little bars that we are then going to dip in some melted chocolate. I like to make my own homemade chocolate with just some cacao and some coconut oil to keep it lower in sugar, but if you just want to melt down some dairy-free chocolate chips, you can do that as well. So then I use a fork and a spoon just to coat each of them, and what's really handy about this is that because it came straight from the freezer, the chocolate hardens quite quickly on them. So I just toss them with the fork and the spoon, and then I use the fork to pull it out so that I wait for some of the chocolate to drizzle off. Put it on your parchment paper, and there you go. You're gonna have your Twix bars. I put them back in the freezer for about 5-10 minutes just to harden. These are so decadent, so yummy, totally like Twix. And next up, we are making one of my classic favorites, and that is Snicker Bars. I've been making Snicker Bars for years, and I needed to share this recipe to those of you who have not made it before. So to make this caramel, I'm using some soaked dates, some vanilla, and a tablespoon of almond butter, but again, you can sub any kind of nut or seed butter that you want. For the base, I'm using some almond flour and then a quarter of our pureed caramel. So after you blend the dates together with the almond butter and the maple syrup, then you're going to add a quarter of it into your base. We're going to add this to a loaf pan again, and we're going to press it down. We're not going to be baking this one. This one's going to have more of a chewy base texture, so we're just going to place it down. You can use your hands, a spatula, into the base of the loaf pan. Again, definitely highly recommend lining it with parchment paper just because it's going to make it a lot easier to press it down. My loaf pan was a bit big, so I made mine 2/3 of the loaf pan, and then I'm spreading the caramel on the top over it. The caramel will be a thicker one than the one from the Twix, and that's just so that it can house all of the nuts. So then I'm adding on top some cashews, but you can use peanuts if you want to keep it true Snickers, but I had some cashews on hand that I thought I would use. And then I'm making more of my paleo homemade chocolate, which is coconut oil and cacao. 2 ingredients, really easy. It is on the bitter side, but I find because we have the caramel in the dates from the Snickers bars and then the caramel in the Twix, it really balances it out. I'm gonna put that in the freezer for, again, about an hour, and then I'm cutting it into bar shapes. Again, I'm doing the mini ones, kind of called the treat size that you would get if you went trick-or-treating, and cutting those up. And then again, we just have to enrobe them in the chocolate. So go ahead and dipping each piece in the chocolate, and then again onto parchment paper. So it's actually quite easy to make this recipe. After you do the base, you blend it together, pop it in the freezer, and dip it in chocolate. I do store all of these in the freezer. You can also store them in the fridge, basically anything besides room temperature, because you definitely don't want them to melt. So I like keeping them in the freezer and then popping them out from when I want one. And again, because these came from the freezer, the chocolate cools right away pretty much quickly, like I would say 1 to 2 minutes. And the chocolate is hardened. You have these delicious Snicker bites. So good. Definitely a runner up to the Twix. And lastly, I'm sharing with you guys some Reese's Cups. Reese's is another classic, and I know it is one that a lot of people like, so I want to show you a healthified recipe. So again, I'm using some almond butter. You can use any kind of nut or seed butter. If you want to use peanut butter, you can too. And I'm adding in some maple syrup and some coconut flour. This combo really helps to get the exact same texture as the Reese's Cups you do in the packaging. If you just use pure nut butter and you don't add the coconut flour, it's still delicious, but it's a bit more gooey and doesn't have that same true texture that the Reese's Cups have. So then I'm taking my paleo chocolate again, and I'm putting a little bit in the base of each of my silicone molds. Then I'm taking a heaping tablespoon of the peanut butter or almond butter, whatever you're using mixture, placing that down, pushing it down, and then I'm going to add in a couple more spoonfuls of the chocolate on top. And this is really easy to make as well, so if you've got kids that you're making this with, this is a really fun activity to do with them too. You can also add in a sprinkle of sea salt on the top if you like the combo of salty and sweet, but I left it as the classic. And again, we're just gonna pop these in the freezer for about 20 minutes until it hardens, and definitely something you want to store either in the fridge or in the freezer. And once you pop them out, they will look something like this. So yummy, so easy. And again, definitely that Halloween candy bar, chocolate bar feel. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm going to leave my free healthy dessert ebook down in the description box so you can grab that. It is free. It has all of my top healthy recipes from the last 8 years of making healthy dessert videos, so you can grab that for free in the description box. And I'm going to leave my last healthy dessert video here on the screen so you can make lots more tasty, delicious, healthy desserts, because after all, isn't that what we are all here for, right? So check that out after this video, and if you guys make these, please tag me on Instagram so that I can share them on my stories. You guys can enjoy them. I'll enjoy through watching you and through making them myself. So I will see you guys in my next video. Bye, guys.